Hey, what's going on? JD here, and this is the Daily JD. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, remember to hit like, comment, subscribe, drop some notes in the chat. Let us know that you're here. And of course, share with your friends. Let them know that you're here joining in the conversation. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. As is tradition, I want to first start off by thanking our Patreon supporters. Of course, over on Patreon, we've got none other than Reviewy McReviewface. His link for his channel is in the comments there. And as well as... Good to see you, Brian. Laugh out loud. Someone remembered to hit that dislike already. There you go. That can work too. And of course, we've got our YouTube sponsors, none other than Josh WRB as well as Mums Universe. Go over, check those guys' channels. Mums and Josh are streamers. You can also find those guys both on Twitch and check it out. It is funny. It is funny. It's just part of the game, I guess, is how we go. Hey, good to see you, Woodrow. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, as always. So, hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I know that I did. I went out on Saturday. I went throughout Kensington, took a bunch of video. I'm working on that now. You know, as I've mentioned in the past, my vlogs are typically a wee bit behind where I am in real life, in the sense that, you know, what I do today, I don't publish today or tomorrow, even for that matter. Usually I'm a few weeks behind, and I'm sure some of you that know me very well and know me in real life probably saw me wandering around the city of Calgary when, you know, I was still publishing videos from Singapore and Malaysia. So, you know, that's how I just sort of do things. And it's a good strategy. It works for me if you are in the vlogging or any kind of video capacity as well. I do recommend that, you know, you try to get a little bit ahead of what your release schedule is. What it does for me in particular is it releases a lot of the pressure of, you know, I need to get something done. It's, you know, Sunday night and I need something for Monday morning. You know, what am I going to do? You know, it gets rid of some of that pressure and anxiety that, you know, happens. And, you know, to be honest, it's not even bad to necessarily miss a week. You know, this week with Lloyd and JD was a missed week. I did put out a video. I did mention the hack contest. If you haven't entered that already, by the way, you should check out our socials for that. You can definitely go over there, get your opportunity to win one of these fabulous Lloyd and JD snapback flat caps. You can definitely win that, and all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, which most of you guys are. So by all means, head over there and click the entries, and you can get a few more entries by following me on my socials, whether that's Twitter and Instagram and stuff. So by all means, check that out. So yeah, you know, back to my story is essentially I went downtown and I went to Kensington, which I do on a regular basis. I typically go comic book shopping there. It's where my comic book store is. So I filmed for most of the day. So the meetup was about 6 o'clock. I got down there maybe about 3, putzed around. Took some video, did some time lapses with the Osmo, and essentially, you know, got that done. I met up with Josh WRB. We went and grabbed some shawarma, and you can check out the video on his channel because Josh is right on it. That's out already. The shawarma as big as my head, you know. Shawarma Station down in Kensington is one of my favorite places to grab shawarma in the city because they are very generous. And we had a good time there. Then we went off to the meetup. And like I said, you will see that all in the vlog, or if you jump over to Josh's channel, by all means, you will see it there. So, you know, it was a good weekend, and hopefully you guys had a good weekend as well. Hopefully busy, productive, you know, spending time with family, friends, getting some videos done, whatever makes your time, you know, worth your while. So I'm just going to jump to the comments here. Good to see you, Craft Smith Filmworks. Good to see you. I always, the rebrand's thrown me off a little bit. I always want to call you Craft Smith Cosplay, but I do like the rebrand. And it is definitely going good. Brian, I finally have a question. Government grants, any experiences with them? I do. and we'll talk about those. You gonna have a Lloyd and JD weed grinder? We have talked. I'll get back to Brian's questions in a second. I'll answer Jerry's right away. Good to see you, Jerry. We have talked about having a Lloyd and JD strain of weed. As most of you know, that Lloyd is very, very into the marijuana, and he's never kind of hidden that fact from anybody. And we've definitely talked about it. We had talked about definitely doing something along those lines. So you never know. It might come out. Who knows? It's definitely one of those things. Any kind of sort of revenue stream that you can generate, whatever that is, in addition to what you do, is always a good thing. So I mean, all jokes aside, things like a weed grinder are not necessarily a bad thing, especially in Canada now with it being legal. And that's something that you can. A herb grinder is something that you can ship anywhere, pretty much, anyways. But all those kind of things, and I mean, in reality, it's simple. I mean, for a small amount of investment, if you know your audience will utilize those kind of things, I mean, it's as simple as sourcing, the aluminum grinder in a place like China, which you can basically buy them for dirt cheap, getting them laser engraved, and that's kind of it. And most of the things will happen there anyways, and you can get them here relatively cheap and, sort of ship them out. That being said, I just got some stuff from China now, some camera equipment stuff for dirt cheap, so I mean, it is definitely doable, and especially with production stuff that isn't really tech stuff. I mean, you can get those for dirt cheap. But yeah, I mean, it has definitely been talked about. A Lloyd JD strain, I would totally smoke that. I'm sure you would. I mean, my marijuana knowledge is nothing. It's to be honest, it's not my thing, and Lloyd definitely his thing, and he definitely knows his stuff. So I mean, he would be the pro in that department. I would be the branding guy, and he would definitely be the everything else technical wise. So it's things that we've looked at, and I mean, obviously these are long-term goals versus short-term goals. It's not something that we're gonna jump into, and I mean, regulation is relatively new, so things are gonna have to evolve in order for those things to happen anyways. But we've definitely talked about it, and something that we are starting to look into. So there you go. So jumping back to Brian's question, I finally have a question. Government grants, any experience with them? Yes, with some of the music stuff, as well as some video grants, basically for film production. You can go there. There are a few websites out there that you can go. They will have actively grants. They will have certain requirements in order for you to receive those grants, and they're good things to go for because it's money that is accessible to everyone, in this, or to everyone that's in the criteria that they set forward. I'll qualify that. A lot of times, with grants, you have to have, like basically a grant application, a proof of concept, some trailer clips. You might have to shoot a short, snippet of what you're going to do. I mean, they're definitely workable. And I mean, obviously, if you get those things, I was going after a grant for the tradition, which unfortunately I did not get. But, things like that, when you get a grant of $40, $50, $100, $150,000, it definitely makes it a lot easier to get where you want to go. And, the same thing that goes with music. There is a ton of musical grants out there for people to make albums. It's just a matter of, making sure that, you have a well-written package. And there are people out there, they're called grant writers, and basically their job is to get people grants. So you can work with these grant writers, and they will basically apply for you, and they have good experience in doing it, and are a lot of times very, very good at gaining successful applications. The trade-off there is that there is a fee attached to it. A lot of times they will take a percentage of that grant, but you work those all in your budgets, when you're putting those forward. So, for example, when I had the tradition laid out, I had to have all my budgets, who I was hiring, who was doing what, all laid out. And, the difficult part on your end sometimes is to get people to commit to stuff that isn't a project yet. Because obviously, like for myself, the project changed. If I had money, there was a different plan in place than if I got no money, because that's the plan that I had to go with. But, having people on standby, knowing people that can do the jobs and will, basically, block out that time, until the grant is, either denied or approved, and commit to stuff is very, very important. And, it's also knowing what's in the grants. A lot of times, grants will have very, very specific things that you have to have, production wise in order to receive that. So, I mean, having a diverse crew is very, very beneficial. For example, again, with the tradition, when I applied for that grant, there had to be one person that was female or identified as female in the production crew that had a lead position. So that was either lead photographer, director, head of music, whatever, the main titles were, and they had to be accredited with that. So, knowing that, you have to have a diverse crew in those parts. And I mean, because they are grants and because they can dictate that, if you don't meet the requirements, you're not going to hit it. I know for a fact that I have lost grants in the past because I haven't hit all the key points. It's not that the project wasn't good. It was just that I didn't have things like the diversity in my crew, and sometimes being a solo act, a lot of the time you have to make sure that the people that you are utilizing to complete your project round you out. I can't change who I am. It's not necessarily true, but the point being is that I am who I am, and that I'm going to have to make some business decisions and who I hire based on sometimes these grants if it's going that way. So it's a good thing. I don't know if you're looking for grants for film, if you're looking for grants for music, or what you're specifically looking for there. I know even there are grants available. When I ran the martial arts school up north, that I had grants to help pay for some of my facility equipment. So basically, because I was training young athletes and because we were doing well, we were able to secure some grants that paid for better training equipment for these guys, which was good. So those things are definitely available. They're out there. You really just kind of have to look. And if it's things like music, taking a look into SoCan and all those kind of places is a good thing. Spark. Or Tell Us Story Hive, not the Science Center, but the Story Hive page. They have grants coming out all the time. Currently, they are looking to fund Aboriginal films. So if you have a film that's an Aboriginal topic, you can definitely do that. And then, there's just, good old media and journalism. If you take a look at my Twitter the other day, I did tweet, there is a Calgary I would say, sort of independent magazine that is sourcing articles, videos, as well as photographs, among other things, and they're paying for it. And writers, especially writers, I guess. But and they pay 30 cents a word, which is pretty much standard as far as a journalistic standard goes for that. But it's always good to see. I sort of tweeted it out yesterday, like, hey, if you're interested, and they're looking for pitches. If you want to pitch them something, they may take you on. Essentially, it's a good thing because in this day and age of digital media, there is a lot of, web spaces and blog spaces and news sites out there that don't pay a cent, and, they, sort of pay you on the promise that they'll pay you later, and they will never pay you. And that's sort of the trapping for a lot of creatives. So by all means, check it out. My brother is documenting our journey this year. My advice to you in that part, Brian, is essentially, do it anyways. Document everything. Make sure that you're taping stuff, filming stuff, and keep it all in the can, kind of keep it going. I mean, the thing is with documentaries, the story always kind of develops over time, and it doesn't necessarily end. And it doesn't end necessarily where you expect it to. I expected to kind of go to Singapore, Malaysia, film the tradition, be there for, basically a month, film it, and then have, everything ready to go. And it didn't turn out that way because there were some unexpected twists in the story. And I honestly don't know when it's 100% going to end. So, I mean, in a sense, me not getting the grant was kind of a blessing because I would have had a deadline to get something out. And I don't think it would have been the best story at this juncture as it's going to be. And it kind of, like I said, it took some weird twists. There's some hints in the vlog of sort of what happened, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's very, very interesting. So if you guys are taping that, that's absolutely fantastic. You just keep it going. Even though you have a project in the works, you can still apply for grants later on. I mean, it's anything in film production, money helps everything. I hate to say it. You can do stuff low budget. There's no doubt about it. If you're creative, if you're resourceful, you can definitely do stuff on a low budget. No problem. Make a film, get it out. It can be done. I mean, there's tons of films and movies and documentaries that prove that over and over again. But, interjection of cash to get things done always does help. So there you go. I'm just going to jump back to the questions there. Craftsman's Filmworks, Another Dimension Comics. I assume you were talking about Kensington. Yes, that is where I go. I have gone there for a long time, ever since I went to a little comic book shop in Canyon Meadows. It was a mom and pop's place, and they closed down, and unfortunately I had to find somewhere new. So that's where I went because I'd moved to the north of the city by that time. So going to the south was kind of a pain in the ass anyways. Oh, there you go. Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see Bear the Destroyer and some jalapenos there from Josh and Mum's Universe. Hashtag frugal here. There you go. Who keeps disliking your stuff? It's an interesting thing. Like I said, I think I've said this on every stream for like the past month. There is somebody out there that just doesn't like me for whatever reason. And, that's fine. Like, that's just the way it is. And I mean, all I want to say to that person, again, they're probably not listening. They're probably just jumping in, is if that's where your focus is, man, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, whatever I've done to offend you or piss you off. I'm not going anywhere. I will continue to do these. I don't care if you dislike. It just helps the algorithm. You're not accomplishing anything. If you're that mad, you should take that energy and put it into something positive and move forward, because, things aren't going to change, especially on this end. I have videos with more dislikes than I have likes. I have one video that has like 160 dislikes and about 10 likes. And that's just the way it is. I'm not going to change me for somebody else. I'm too old for that. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And there you go. Hey, Dan, good to see you. What's going on? So I do have a few topics. If there is other stuff that you want to talk about, by all means, and hopefully Brian answered your question fairly well. I'll see if I have any resources kicking around in my desktop that I can shoot you over, but the ones that come to mind are SoCan and StoryHive. Check those out. That's music, and then StoryHive being film. So check those out. So I do have a couple topics to talk about, and first one being the FaceTime bug. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but if you are on iPhone, FaceTime has a bug. It's got a group FaceTime, or had a group FaceTime. Essentially, what you could do was call an individual to join a group FaceTime, and basically, when they didn't pick up, you could add them to the conference call, and it would pick up for them. So essentially, you could call somebody's phone and answer their phone, which is actually kind of scary when you think about it. It was a software bug. Apple has since, it's been discovered, obviously taken that feature down completely. And, what it was enabling you to do is that you could call somebody and listen to wherever they were whether they wanted you to or not. If they didn't answer, you could just kind of listen, and that was, that's it, which is kind of scary. I mean, everybody's walking around with phones. A lot of people have, like myself, I have FaceTime hooked into my desktop because I utilize it on a regular basis for conference calls. And, it's kind of scary that, people can sort of jump in and eavesdrop. But I mean, if you have webcams, or if you have security cams that are hooked into the net, or if you have anything that's really connected to the internet or another device, there is always an opportunity, I hate to say it, for somebody to jump in. So it's one of those things. As technology gets better and better, the more likely somebody is able to, kind of get themselves interjected into private situations. Like I said, the internet kind of went up in wildfire when this glitch was found out. So, it's kind of an interesting development. For those of you who live in Canada, who know that the Canadian government basically picked up a Huawei executive to ship them off to the United States to speak to, I believe it was, fraud charges or something along those lines, knows that, Huawei and China not terribly happy with us, that we're basically looking at banning Huawei devices because the government is fearful that these devices are going to be used to spy on people. And, other countries, including the United States, I believe there's a couple Norwegian companies as well that have essentially already done that and banned those devices from them. There's a lot of fear into those things. And I mean, that's the thing with anything digital. We've seen it in the past, even just with software programs. We've seen it with Facebook. We've seen it with a lot of social media platforms, is that they are tracking a great deal of information. So, I mean, in the wrong hands, obviously that information, not necessarily the best thing. I don't think my life is terribly that interesting that there's anything exciting to listen in on. But, at the end of the day, I mean, we still have to protect people's privacy, and that's an important thing. So, I understand why people are making a big deal about it. Obviously Apple is a little mortified by that, and it's not helping their reputation, as well as, companies like Facebook have already been badly damaged by things like the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So it's definitely an interesting thing. Also 70 charges on that exec. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. I will say this, and normally I don't talk about politics on Lloyd and JD. I don't talk about politics here. One of the big things that I honestly believe is that Canada was in a better place when we were a lot more of a, I'd say, neutral-bodied country, where we were more akin to, places like Switzerland, where we just kind of didn't get involved. We were peacekeepers. We didn't really, jump on sides or anything like that. And I honestly don't like the direction, of doing things like that. Obviously, the executive from Huawei knows that there is warrants for them in the United States, so wouldn't travel to the United States, came to Canada, and they got picked up, and obviously it's caused some, tension in the relationships between Canada and China. In fact, to the point that, I am thinking about where to go to travel. I was considering going to Hong Kong, and that's now completely off the table because traveling on on a Canadian passport, it's just, I'm just asking for problems. And I wouldn't leave it past to get picked up for something arbitrary. That being said, if I wanted to do it, I would probably really wanted to do it, which I'm not even going to bother, is I would just travel on my UK passport and make it a different thing. It's a lot better, I think, to, kind of just keep your nose out of other people's business. And I think that's a big part of the problems with, people in general and, the world today, is that a lot of times we stick our our nose in businesses that we don't belong to, that we don't belong in. And, you're better off just, sort of letting it alone. We all have an opinion, especially in the digital age, the way it is, but let's be honest that, sometimes, if you stick your nose in the wrong place, it's going to get cut off. If somebody's having an argument when you're walking down the street and, they're about to trade blows, and then you go and you interject your very strong opinion, there's a good chance that, you may become involved in something you don't want involved in. And, it's the same with politics. So there you go. My daughter has one of the new phones. Not sure if I will be getting a new one. Who knew that this would start World War III? Yeah. Let's hope not. Let's hope the last two are the last ever, or, at least in my lifetime. That's definitely not a good way to go. So, yeah, like I said, interesting news in terms of the FaceTime bug, but as it stands now, basically Apple has shut things off on their end, so nobody can group FaceTime. It's too bad because I was looking forward to it. Like I said, I utilize FaceTime a lot for conference calls. So, I do like the app as a whole. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and again, if you have any questions, by all means, throw them in the chat, is the social media strategy that got Casey Neistat to advertise for free. If you watch Casey Neistat today, you already know what I'm going to talk about. But I have to say that every time you think that you've seen kind of all the things that you can do on social media, somebody comes up with something that is really kind of brilliant. And I have to say, in this case, it was something that was brilliant, an excellent marketing mind that was well executed. Unfortunately, I think it will be hard for anybody to sort of pull it off again once this sort of gets some virility, which it will, because obviously Casey made a video about it. But Burger King basically went out, and this is genius because they didn't spend a cent. They all they did was they paid their marketing guy to do this. So he went out on Twitter, and then he went back to tweets in 2009 and started liking tweets on high profile influencers. So, I'm not talking about businesses. I'm talking about, personalities, social media influencers. So the Casey Neistats of the world, people with millions and millions of followers. So they went out and they would like, 3 to 5 tweets on everybody's feed from way back in 2009. So guys like Casey Neistat see this because Burger King, being an organization, and this is, the part that wouldn't work for you or I necessarily, is liking their tweets from 2009. And it confused them. It really, really confused them. So basically, all these people started tweeting, what's going on? Like Casey Neistat, like, why are you liking my tweets from 2009? It's that was his tweet. And then that got retweeted like, because he tweeted at Burger King, a few thousand times, and like several thousand times. And then, at the end of the day, they did this to multiple people. And at the end of the day, what Burger King did, it was basically tweeted as like, hey, we're bringing back these, savory fries that we released in 2009. We're bringing them back. So, I mean, they targeted the year that these fries were popular, told people that they're bringing them back, and then essentially through these social media accounts, like with people like Casey Neistat that have a large following, got a huge amount of reach because it just confused people because it wasn't the normal social media, sort of trend. It's when you post a tweet, usually it's got a shelf life of maybe a few hours, not a few years, unless somebody's digging something that you said up or did a long time ago because you're going to host the Oscars. But, ultimately, it's something, that really, really works. And I mean, it's brilliant. It is smart. You don't spend a cent. I mean, if you were to walk up to Casey Neistat and say, hey, I want you to advertise my product, I bet you there at this juncture, there is a decent price tag attached to that. There is a decent number. And if you do it to Casey Neistat and, 40, 50, 60, 80 people that are the equivalent across a wide section of, sort of influence, whether they're fashion vloggers, whether they're, fitness, people, whether, they're business people, who knows, right? As long as you're attaching them to the personalities, the moment that they tweet that out, the moment that they get in there, they have that people and they are just generating tons and tons of hype. The fact that I didn't see the tweet, the fact that, I had no idea until I basically watched Casey's video, just shows you how one tweet can get that kind of reach. And again, to Burger King's, sort of, applaud is that Casey made a video about it. So now not only is the tweet viral, the video will probably hit a few million views. So a lot of people will be taking, it'll just go that much further. So, I mean, it is a brilliant step of marketing. So, I mean, it goes to show you that even with nothing that you can accomplish something. Again, it might not work for you or me because, if I start liking your tweets in 2008, you're probably just like, that guy's weird. But as a corporation, it makes perfect sense. So, I mean, there's always kind of a way to get yourself out there, so think about things that you can do, be creative. There are always opportunities waiting to happen. You just have to grab them. And again, hats off to Burger King. Genius kind of marketing move. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm sure people will try to repeat this, but I really kind of think that, once it's well known, people have caught on and it's just kind of like, okay, whatever, it's an interesting kind of take. As Brian says, definitely working the system. That's epic. From 10, every time I do that, people just block me. And that's the thing too. And again, that's why it works for a corporation, because people are like, what's up, Burger King? And I mean, let's be honest here for a minute. I mean, it's playing into a part of the human persona that, we all know exists on social media, is that number one is that everybody kind of likes to be a jokester. Everybody, a lot of people are very, very serious, but everybody likes to be funny. Everybody likes to be funny. And the fact, the Burger King was doing something weird, people want to be funny about it. Number two is that, big evil corporations like Burger King, everybody kind of likes to take a poke at them every once in a while. So, the fact that, they're liking tweets from, 2009, a lot of people would look at that and just say, that marketing guy's a moron. Like, why did they hire him? Like, I'm this giant influencer. Why are you liking my tweets from 2009? You don't know how to internet. And you get on there and you call them out. So again, absolutely brilliant marketing. Somebody is on their A game at Burger King, and I applaud that individual because it was a stroke of genius. But as Josh indicated, doing it as an individual, you just could probably get yourself blocked, or they're just going to look at you kind of funny. What I thought was the only one. I feel like a tweet from 2 days ago, I feel weird. Yeah, and I mean, that does happen. Like, I mean, I'm on Twitter on a regular basis. For those of you who follow me on there know that I'm fairly active, and sometimes stuff pops up in the feed, and you like it from a couple days ago, and that's weird, but, it is what it is, and, it's still interaction. So I say go with it. Is kind of the thing. What's my favorite barbecue place in town, and do you want to visit it and make a vlog about it? Sure, I'd be down for that. I'd just be down to go check out a bunch, to be honest. I haven't done a ton of barbecue. I've done the one at the farmer's market there, and it's not bad. And then there was one that was up here before, but it has since closed, and it was not bad either. But I am definitely down for new adventures and checking it out, and checking out new food and vlogging it and all that kind of good stuff. I do enjoy the food portion of vlogs. I do like to go to Taste of Calgary every year. I think that's always good. The funny thing is I can't find the footage of this year's. I had the footage, I uploaded it to my hard drive, and I didn't publish it out for whatever reason. I think it was I had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I just never edited it. and now I can't find it because I was actually going to do a retro vlog as well, with that basically showing, because it's very obviously summer when it happened. So, I mean, it's very obviously winter at this point now. So, very, very interesting. I also have anybody that wants to get down for an 80s vlog. I'm kind of wanting to do that. I want to break out, and I just have to make sure that I have the capacity to transfer the video files, because it gets a little complicated, transferring video files. And especially with the newer computers, I have to make sure that I'm able to extract it. But I want to go out with the camcorder and vlog 80s style. I've got a chip and pepper hoodie that is dying to get back out there and be worn, as well as some Chuck Taylors and all that kind of stuff. Do some skateboarding on an 80s skateboard, because, well, that's what I ride anyways, but that's besides the point. And just go out and have some fun. So if anybody's interested in doing that, that I think would be a fun time. It will be all recorded on tape, DV tape. I don't think I've said that in a long, long time. And I think, the interesting part about it is that the aesthetic of things, especially today, things are so clear and polished with 4K, and the video production side of things are so completely awesome now, that I think if you did a well filmed, very grainy, sort of with the tape lines, all that kind of stuff that is not done in post, would actually stand out very, very well. And even just the process, because I will tell you, the DV cameras that we used to have, it's an interesting process. And obviously I'm going to date myself if people haven't used these things to make films like I have, is that you used to have to take those tapes, you used to have to plug it into your computer, you would press play and import, and then basically it would import off the tape. So if you recorded for 4 hours worth of footage, you were running that for 4 hours just to do the import, which is absolutely insane. It takes a long, long time to get it done. And, I have boxes of DV tapes, because, we would probably have, anywhere from on the film between 100 to 250 tapes of footage that we had, and then we would upload and hard drive and all that kind of stuff. But, it's a ton of fun. I actually kind of do miss it in a lot of ways. I do like DVD tapes. In a lot of ways, they're more reliable than SD kind of cards and all that kind of stuff. But and they're archived. I do have trays of them still, and I probably will never get rid of them. As well as I have High 8. And if anybody has a High 8 player by any chance, let me know, because I do need to transfer some of that to digital stuff, and I don't have one that actively works. So there you go. Jumping back to the comments. That place is awesome. I could see if my Panasonic still works. I'm sure it does. I know mine do. I'm just kind of scared about the battery life. That's probably the one big thing, is probably get out there and it's maybe got a few minutes of battery life after a few hours of charge would be probably the biggest thing. But, it's definitely something that's in my head. And especially since I have 80 stuff, I don't know if I posted it anywhere, but for those of you who are skaters and know Vision streetwear, I got myself a pair of suede Vision streetwear shoes that I have not worn yet, because they're like my prized possession at this point. But those suede high top sneakers were super cool in the 80s, and I just happened to find a pair, so I got them. Much to my wife thinking that I was insane. So there you go. Josh, making my edit reviews back in the day used to take days to edit, which is very, very true. Now I can edit in 2 hours and think that's long. And that's funny. That's kind of, the interesting thing is that it's so much easier in a way to produce. You can produce something so fast in comparison. Even things like, the import taking hours, the rendering taking hours and hours, and then, the exporting and the uploading just equally as bad because, well, the internet sucked, in comparison speed wise. So, it's things have definitely evolved. We are definitely, the fact that you can record everything on your phone, edit it, and upload it in minutes, I mean, makes it absolutely crazy. So, it's interesting in those regards. Now I can edit 2 hours, think that's long. Editing in Premiere and exporting took 10 plus hours. And yeah, I mean, that was exactly my point. I mean, it was such a huge time investment to do it. And not only that, like, I mean, the cost of media at that point, while DV tapes, maybe cost you $10, if you were lucky, $15 a tape. To store that on media, I mean, you were probably pretty gangster if you had a 40 megabyte hard drive, and that's what you were kind of looking at, like 40 megs worth of footage. That's not a lot, especially when you have that many tapes. So it cost a fortune to do it. In fact, I used to run tape backups of footage because it was a cheaper alternative. And the fact that takes hours as well is absolutely crazy. Hey, good to see you, Dan. Thanks for dropping in. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, throw them in the chat. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about today. Thanks again, Daniel Nobre, for the suggestion of the FaceTime bug. We discussed that earlier. I had a 256 megabyte thumb drive, state of the art. That would be huge, huge, huge. It's crazy how fast things evolve, and how much better, faster, quicker things get. And I still complain about how slow things are. And the comparison of my computer now to what it was when I edited my first film, is definitely much, much different. And it's kind of funny because I went and back today after I watched Casey Neistat. I was kind of wasting some time today. After I watched his video today, I went back and I watched the first episode of the Neistat Brothers, the HBO special. It just kind of, that's what actually stimulated my thought to do the 80s vlog. I don't have my old Indigo Mac, which was one of the very first Macs. If you've ever seen pictures of them, it was basically a screen. It was all in one. Mine had a blue back, kind of a turquoisey blue back, and a keyboard. It was the first home computer where you could essentially edit video. And I saved my money. I got that. I got the cameras, and like with the whole plan of making the mountain bike films, which I did, and it's just crazy to think that how much things have come from there, and how long it took to edit things, and what it takes in comparison to now, and just the capacity of things like After Effects and After Graphics and green screen, and you have studio production quality kicking around, which is very, very accessible now. And it just keeps on getting better and better. Even things like the stream here, having things like the Stream Deck to start and stop things, makes a huge, huge difference. And, the fact that I can sort of introduce graphics at any point with a click of a button, much like you would have just all sitting self-produced in a chair, is absolutely amazing. Those things would have taken hours and hours in class. I've never seen the Neistat Brothers. You should definitely watch it. If you've ever liked Casey Neistat's vlogs, definitely take a look at that. It is definitely a... You can see that his style really hasn't changed. You can see from sort of a grassroots perspective where it all kind of started. The premise of the Neistat Brothers is they took a year off, basically got a computer, got a camera, went out and filmed their adventure. They took a year. And again, this goes to the time. They took 1 year and produced 8 episodes. So they went out and they filmed all these episodes across the world. Then they went to HBO, and and this is how Casey got his sort of start, was pitched it to HBO. They sold it to HBO, which anybody that knows anything back in those days, a network deal is a big deal. I know the guys that did Drop In, the TV series, which is a mountain bike TV series where they basically bought a City of Calgary bus and they drove around. For anybody that's into BMX, it's very akin to Road Fools. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Road Fools. Definitely very, very cool. I think Drop In as well is available on YouTube now, and you can see them. A lot of the guys that I film with, guys, good friends like Jared Jesperson, as well as, Doug Fink, and those guys, they would go and tour around in a bus and they would film it, and they did everything from North America, everything to, heading down to New Zealand and heading down there and traveling through there. So, really cool. But anybody that got a network deal was getting a lot of money to do what they were doing. And I mean, especially in the case of mountain bike films, it doesn't change the production value so much because you are riding places you probably shouldn't. All it does is give you money for bail, which is always very important. Sorry, Las Vegas. And, it also helped you get to places that you might not have been able to get to, thanks to things like helicopter rentals and, again, getting in touch with the right people. So there you go. I'm getting inspired by fun old places right now too. Some chit chat going on. So one of the things I do want to talk about as well, and I forgot this, I just reminded myself when I talked about the power of the Stream Deck. Elgato, again, making things really, really easy. I just announced that Michael J. Fox, again, will be at Calgary Comic Expo this year. For those of you that are big Expo kind of people, know that the whole Back to the Future crew was supposed to happen last year. At the last minute, Michael J. Fox, obviously with Parkinson's disease, canceled. And so they just had the rest of the cast there. This year they are having the full class of Back to the Future again, barring no cancellations. And that's, just been announced as of today. It's as I love comic books. I think everybody knows that I love comic books. I have a huge comic collection. I've been at the Calgary Comic Expo for years and years and years. Sadly, this year I will not be exhibiting at the expo because of, a variety of reasons, from the cost being very restrictive at this point, the fact that, Fan Expo Toronto took over and changed a bunch of things, which left a bunch of people very, very unhappy. A lot of people that were mainstay artists got treated very, very poorly. Myself and Lloyd got moved from our spot, which we considered our spot where we'd been for years in the main hall. We got booted back to the Big Four building, which had a huge impact on us. And, it's just kind of sad in those sense. And I mean, it's funny that, it's kind of going this way. I have a friend that, basically used to exhibit every year in San Diego. And he said years ago that, basically he bailed out. And the reason was that, the focus becomes so much solely on, film and television and entertainment that, the rest of it kind of gets lost and becomes a sideshow. That and, the price becomes very, very exclusive. If you take a look at the prices, and I'm not saying that, if you're a big super fan of Michael J. Fox or Back to the Future, that going to a panel and hearing those guys talk is probably, very thrilling and very exciting. But, to the price of $400 to start, it gets really, really kind of expensive. And, $400 gets you a ticket to hear them talk and a pre-signed, autograph of Michael J. Fox. So he won't even sign it for you. You just get handed one that's already been pre-signed. And then at the end of the day, you get your photograph with him. And if you pay, I think it's about $550, I think was the price, that, it really kind of, you can get him to sign it directly there, which is, it's crazy in a sense, I know these guys have to make a money, they're living and all that kind of stuff. And, this is all extra promotional stuff. And, we always talk about, additional revenue streams here and stuff like that. I would like to think that, if, people got so huge that, that you thank your fans first and foremost. I don't think, I would ever charge anybody for an autograph. I think that is, I don't know. I don't know. I just, I don't ever feel that that's a great thing. And it's always been something I've been, fundamentally opposed to. It's, if, if I was in those shoes, I would definitely sign stuff just because, I would think that, the people that supported me and helped me are the people that made me, and you have to make the time for those people and give something back. It's definitely an interesting concept. So, it's, something that I honestly don't believe in. Like, I mean, it's, I get it, like charge appearance fees. I understand that you have to take time out of your schedule. You have to make money. You have to fly to Calgary, all that kind of stuff. I get that, charge an appearance fee, and that's kind of it. I don't know who at the end of the day is making money off the stuff, but I know, some of it is kind of obscene. I know, and I'll give you a story from early on in the Calgary Comic Expo, back when they had the cast from Star Trek come down. One of my friends was doing executive protection for, Leonard Nimoy. And at that point, they never did this prepay stuff over the internet or credit cards or anything like that. It was kind of like cash in hand, pay for your autograph, and, that was it. And he spent the whole day with them, basically making sure no fan, sort of jumped over and grabbed him, or, try to, give him a Vulcan mind meld or something that he didn't want. And he was charging for autographs. And, basically, as the story goes, is at the end of the day, he was handed over the cardboard box that Leonard Nimoy was keeping underneath the table. And it was this big cardboard box, and it was just filled with cash. So, I mean, it's one of those things, like, if you're being paid to be there and, make an appearance, I mean, if it was me, I would do that. But I mean, it's easy for say because it's not me. But, I think I would want to give something back to my fans. I would definitely go to these fan expos to reward my fans because, whether, those fans have made my movies possible, or films possible, or television shows possible, or, my merch deals even more possible. It's just one of those crazy, crazy things. Let's take a look. Stream Deck rules. That it does. Wow, I didn't know he was going to be here this year. Yeah, they just announced it. Michael J. Fox's prices went up from last year. Yeah, which is, I'm not going to say I'm surprised, because Fan Expo is notorious for raising prices. Part of the reason that I didn't sign up, and I'm glad I didn't for this year, is that they didn't release the prices that we were going to be paying for our booths. They just wanted us to commit with a credit card number, and that was kind of it. And that's not how I operate things. And, again, I may regret it in the future, but I just felt that, the $600-700 that I would be paying probably for a table, it was probably at this juncture not worth it. I would rather just kind of go and buy a day pass, spend the one day there, have some fun, hang out with some people, because a lot of times, to be honest, I work the whole time. I don't necessarily get to enjoy, so that'll be an opportunity to do that and maybe go do some more filming than I normally do. So there you go. Holy moly, maybe it's me. But I don't care that much to meet these actors in that kind of environment where I'm paying for it. Paying is just to be close to a famous person is a bit ridiculous. And I think that's, that's 100%, that. I think, it's, I understand wanting to meet people that you idolize, that, you can go and do that. I mean, I have paid to, listen to, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes record a podcast live, but I equate that more to a comedy show than anything else. Being entertained, listening to them talk, no different than paying for a concert ticket to watch a musician play music. But, just to, where I draw the line is obviously paying for autographs. I will say that Jill Weir, for those of you who are in the YouTube community will know Jill. She knows I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. She offered up very generously to, because her and her boyfriend Aaron had basically purchased an opportunity to get a photograph with Kevin and Jason, and I declined. Not because, number one, it was theirs. They had paid for it and stuff, and it was extremely generous of them to offer that. But again, just kind of fundamentally, it's not there for me. It's, I'm not saying that, Kevin Smith is greedy by any chance. He's a very generous guy. I've had the opportunity to see him talk, numerous times, and he is a very, down to earth person that will talk to you, as many will tell you that, when you catch him smoking up in the corner of the Grey Eagle parking lot, he is more than happy to talk about weed or where to get weed in Canada, or, just kind of talk to you. So, there you go. Brian says Peter Dinklage donated almost all his Calgary comic to the Children's Expo in an anonymous donation, and that is awesome. If they're doing things like that, I wouldn't necessarily mind, but if he made that up front, that's I don't know the story there, but if he did that up front, I mean, that's amazing, and I get that. That's definitely using your celebrity to do something good. It's it's like, if you want to sit down and you want to pay $5 and I'll sign something and it all goes to a charity, then perfect. It's nice that he did it anonymously. Obviously, it got out, but it's in that case, it's like, why not, be upfront about it and do it, sort of at the forefront, is kind of thing. Josh says, I don't do that stuff for that reason too. That's just him, and again, hats off to people that do those kind of things. It's you can definitely do good with your celebrity power, your star power, or just being kind of an everyday person. You can definitely go out there and do some good and, fantastic things. It doesn't always have to be, about the money at the end of the day, and especially, like I said, if you're in a position where you've got fans and, where you have some influence in those regards, it's a good thing to give back to those people as much as you can, because they help make you what you are. And I think, that's not very hard for us to see necessarily, sitting in the positions that we are, and I would hope that, nobody loses sight of that, the further up they sort of make it. When you're sitting there at, the influence of a Casey Neistat or something like that, or a Peter McKinnon, hopefully you're always consistently, giving back or trying to do good things for the community, or building, because we all started in the same place and it's all, kind of working forward. So there you go. Question: do you think the setup for Calgary Expo feels so lackluster compared to other comic and entertainment expos? I mean, the design of it all. Yes, it's getting worse. It's kind of interesting in the sense, like I said, the prices keep on going up. And I think that's because they are paying for a lot of the talent to come in. And at the end of the day, and to be honest, I think some of the signing fees and stuff like that is all part of Calgary and Fan Expo, isn't necessarily, part of, just that individual that's getting them signed. But they haven't done a lot in making things better. In fact, it used to be, until last year, we used to get tablecloths for our tables, as well as a cover. And then this year, all they did was they took a roll of plastic sheeting and rolled it the entire length of the tables that were there. So if I went to pull my table apart from somebody else's, I would take half of their display with them. I mean, they're definitely cutting some corners. They're known for that. I had a good talk with Ali Eeps, who's a friend of mine, an artist based out of Toronto, who does obviously the Toronto Expo, comes to Calgary, hangs out here. Check out her stuff. She's really cute. She does a lot of cute Marvel stuff. It's really funny. I have a magnet on her fridge of Venom with his tongue stuck to an icy pole. She kind of makes fun of comic books that way, but she'll tell you firsthand, because she's dealt with Fan Expo for a long time, that they just kind of cut those corners in those regards. I think, as a whole, it's great that Calgary has a great big show. Things that they do very, very well are things like the parade. I think the parade is absolutely fantastic. I think they've done a really good job of that. Again, something like that is built by the community more than anything else. All the cosplayers out there, do a fantastic job. And I mean, it is a big parade. And I went last year for the first time because I had the opportunity, to kind of go because of the timing of it. And I was surprised how big it had gotten compared to the first time I went, which was just kind of a little lackluster. But, there you go. Good to see you, TC Reed. Am I from Calgary? Absolutely. Craftsmith says it's because Fan Expo doesn't really care about the setup. They just want the money. That's exactly kind of the sentiments that Ali sent towards me as well. So, it's not unknown that they are kind of like that. I know that, like, again, a lot of people were unhappy with the sale. And it'll be interesting to see how it all sort of evolves. Calgary Expo will definitely always be a big thing. When they're bringing in casts like Back to the Future, when they're bringing in casts like Aliens, when they're getting like Star Trek Generations together, all these kind of things where they have huge fan bases, they will always do very, very well for those sectors, and they know it. The rest of it, it's just kind of, it is what it is, and they're not going to invest a ton into that. It's... like I said, my friend from San Diego who exhibits there, he will tell you that, he would pay a fortune. And I mean, I'm complaining about prices in Calgary. They compare nothing to San Diego. And it's just, kind of ridiculous how much. But all the effort is into, sort of the premieres of movies, these celebrity panels talking about their movies. It's almost like a film thing more than anything else at this point. Obviously, a lot of it rooted in, popular culture and, things with huge fan bases like comic books or Doctor Who or, science fiction, sort of franchises. But that's kind of where it's been pushed to. And I think you're going to see that happen with Calgary as well. And I mean, if you are into that kind of thing, like if you love sitting down and, listening to celebrity panels talk about the film that they made 20 odd years ago and the stories and experiences, all the power to you. To me, it just seems, a little very bit expensive to pay $400 for that kind of, experience, which is on top of the ticket price. So, I mean, anytime that you pay for these events, if you pay to go see Back to the Future, you still have to buy an expo ticket on top of that. I kind of wish it was like it used to be, which it used to be is you used to buy the pass and you could go to whatever panel you wanted to. And some panels were packed and, it was standing room only. Some panels, not so much. I kind of wish it was back to that, but I think those days are long gone, and it'll be interesting to see. And you're absolutely right at Craftsman Cosplay. I love the parade, my favorite part of the expo. And the best part is the parade is absolutely free. So, when you happen to go check that out, you are never going to be charged a cent. Ticket covers your ability to spend more money. And that's the funny thing. And I mean, it's definitely become an interesting kind of deal. The Christmas one I've always been curious about. I know Craftsmith, he could probably fill us in a little bit more about that. I saw a Craftsmith video from the Christmas Expo. To me, that's just a more laid back kind of expo where you can buy gifts. I do enjoy, like, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy going to these kind of things. I've more enjoyed as of late going to things like the Red and White Club for their comic shows because it is a lot more old school, boxes and boxes of comics, lots of collectibles, some great artists, and completely attainable. I think it was like $5 to get in. Half the time, Another Dimension, which is in Kensington, the comic book store that I go to, gives me tickets to that. In fact, they usually give me a whole pile of tickets. I know that myself and the DXT the one day went up there because we're shooting photographs of Dan in Kensington, and we decided to go because I got a bunch of free tickets, and then we had a bunch of extras, and we tried to give them away. And sometimes it's hard to give away free stuff. Like, people think there's an ulterior motive, but it was kind of entertaining. So if you do have any questions, by all means, throw them in the chat. Appreciate you guys coming. I've babbled on for an hour tonight, which is abnormally long for myself, but that is good. Again, appreciate it. As is tradition, this is the point where I press the play ad button, so you may see an ad, you may not. If not, you're going to hear me to continue talking. If you do happen to see an ad, by all means, throw it in the chat there. Let me know that you actually saw something, because based on a complex criteria, some of your viewers may see an ad. Keep on streaming. They have shown up from time to time, but at the end of the day, most times it is, it is empty. Craftsman said the holiday market is cool, but it's basically a vendor area. But if you want nerdy Christmas gifts, it's definitely worth a visit. And that's the awesome part. I don't think the algorithm works in Texas, Woodrow. So I don't know if you're ever going to get an ad. It's one of those crazy things. It's what I like about comic places as well, or sorry, comic expos. I do like the vendor stuff, the toy stuff. Although even that, is less and less harder to come by now. Back in the day, it was very, very difficult to get memorabilia, shirts or whatnot. A lot of times comic book stores would only carry a couple things for a very brief time, and that was kind of it. But I mean, today you can go to any shopping mall and pick up a Batman, whatever, especially, with Marvel and their movies, there's all the merch associated with it. I mean, it's kind of like merch overkill. It's kind of exploded, which I like, because I mean, obviously, I like my merch. I like my, my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like my Deadpool stuff and all that kind of stuff, even though the shelves are relatively bare behind me since the new setup. But, it's always good to check out those kind of things. But I like unique stuff is kind of what it goes. And that's kind of, I think, why I like to travel a little bit more now, because then I can get stuff that I know definitely isn't available here. That's why I'm big to going to, Japan and Malaysia and, Hong Kong and all these places, because you get to see stuff that is completely different and unique. Although the world keeps on getting smaller, and it's just easier and easier to get stuff no matter where you are. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks again for sending me some topics to talk about. Of course, I will be back, as is tradition, on Thursday, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Again, thanks to our supporters. Of course, that is Mum's Universe, Josh WRB, and as well as Reviewy McReviewface, our supporters both on here on YouTube and on Patreon. So thank you so much, guys, for your continued support. We definitely have to start thinking about some 80s blog stuff. Craftsmith, I still have to talk to you about the podcast at some point. And let's build together. So until next time, see ya.